we're in. Welcome in, welcome in. Let's have another session and let it begin. We're going to find out what's happening when we go within. We're going to identify that which is identifiable as we brush back, scrub back the illusions and find out the illusions were actually blocking us from seeing who we are. The illusions were stripped back like a curtain, and then you started seeing yourself as you are. I just want to bring that forth and say that my attempt at a little introduction. But anyways, that's funny. But anyways, let me tie this a little bit so I'm looking presentable here. Got my hair done. I got my hair cut. Got long. But I'm here. How did you like the last video? And before I say that, on religion and legion, wow. On the phone, and many people like the phone when I'm doing the traveling, just interactive and going on my phone. But here's the deal. Here's the real deal. Holyfield, get ready for the spiel. It's powerful. It will be released on this day as I record Friday. It hasn't been released yet because I went to in the new year, I went to the 2-2 format, right? 2 days on, 2 days off, to let the 2 videos absorb. Help me and share those and please like those who listen, like to get into the algorithm, because I needed to hit the algorithm to get that space to catapult it more, because recently stuff's been not getting the views, and I don't trust the algorithm because my numbers haven't went down, they've went up of people here. So and I'm going to different areas and talking about stuff that's not so, you have to know something to know what I'm talking about. And if you're new, let me know. I can go back and do some other videos, but I'm going to even break a little bit of tradition today. Not tradition of recently, but not. It goes hand in hand. I have not been doing, yesterday's was that word of the day or words of the day, legion and religion, is what's happened since the first of the year with this. And I'm really doing this because I feel it to just get them new ones, and anybody not to be, is get your discernment, tap in, get in your meditations, get awareness, get really acquainted with yourself and your discernment activation. Your discernment is like a GPS. It's going to accompany you whatever dimension you go to, so you know that you know what's there, what's available, and what's not available, and when you need to go right, go left, and avoid something that could be a trap. Because when you don't, discernment's good to pick up on stuff, because otherwise you can fall for anything. Discernment's a very powerful tool that's needed to accompany us in every aspect of our life. So I'm going to do this. This is coming from a little bit different view. This is coming from a very tech view of what's behind the scenes. And we see all this, when I'm looking at this world and how we've hit this real super charged technology age. Folks, they're getting ready to get rid of your cash, Americans. A lot of us don't believe that. They're going to put us on the digital coin. It's going to happen. When, how, and when is the question, right? But it's going to happen. They're prepping us for it. Even calling the investigations that giving Elon Musk this power to go in there and check out all the money's made and the wasted money, as you know, that's been the word. They're finding everything the former administration was spending and wasting money on and giving to other countries, giving to people, and all this stuff's coming out. And for a lot of people who are caught up in the 2 poles of politics, it's like things are going common sense, and we knew what they were doing. We knew that they were, because of what they presented the last 4 years, actually longer, but just the abruptness of what we've seen from 19 to now. And those who are connected on a more spiritual aspect feel it in a spiritual connection of your awakeness and how you're connected and the experience you're having. Definitely, I know there's a few people here. Definitely my friend Patty, definitely. Because we talk and text back and forth, and she's in a mode, because there's another mode coming for what I've been talking about, raising and timeline jumpings, and this is the reason it's needed, is for what's coming. But be aware, don't fall for stuff. And that one side's this and one side's that. They're all related. That's why I went hard on the blue blood and its systems in my last videos, and the language and what they are and what they do and how they're connected and how they don't go out of their certain aspects. They don't change out of that. They are perfect chameleons to make they feel they're connected to you, but you're not looked at as they look at each other. They feel they're the ruling class. Like I went into the equivocal language, which was powerful, that people need to be shared and heard, because there's people who don't know this. Once you know this, this is a deal breaker to you to adjust to raise your frequency, because now you're looking at the word of the day is important here. Why? Because it goes with the language. And as I said before I go into this introduction of who I'm going to introduce, who is not a spiritual teacher. I'm going to introduce a few of her videos, but I've been aware of her probably since a year ago. But before we talk about her, and I'll explain her, and I'm going to share some screen about her, is this station primarily, why we're here and why I wanted to be different was the self-development of self and knowing self, and how do we build ourselves. That's really what this platform was brought. It was different than everybody else. Some platforms are only on gematria, which some platforms are only about conspiracies and what they do to us, but I wanted one that was more based on how do we grow, how do we build ourselves, and how do we do these things. And I've been doing that for a while, how to get the inner knowledge and know how to get the inner knowledge and what that's there. And then I was boosted by learning the teachings that we had old schools for, Gnosticism, alchemy, Hermeticism. All these were actually colleges that the universities now copy their structure, but don't teach what they taught, and that's just facts. Actually helped me boost that this is an order in the higher realms. The disorders in the lower realms, but they're orderly, disorderly. In the higher realms of your frequencies up. But we need to see some stuff going on in the planning, in the tech phase, the technology phase. And so we're going to go on to, I'm going to share and I'm going to talk about this, about a young lady. I think she's young. I believe she's definitely young. Younger than me. I don't know how old she is exactly, but her name's Whitney Webb. I'm going to share a video about her, read this, and we're going to even look at her real quick over here, because I even said, who is Whitney Webb? Whitney Webb, right? This is Whitney Webb. Many of you maybe seen her. Whitney Webb. Maybe you've even seen her, right? In places. If any of you guys have, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I would think maybe a lot of you haven't. A journalist. And she's never swayed by the left and the right. She tells you this is what they're doing, this is what's happening, especially with money, crypto, and the technology that we talked about here with Neuralink and their plans with these, putting this stuff on and what it's connected to. So when you kind of look at Whitney, let's kind of even look, she's an author. Most Americans questioning the official 9 story as evidence contradicts official narrative. She's went in and she's not one-sided, meaning, oh, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat. She's not. She's telling you about both of them and how they're actually behind the scenes, where they're telling us now, right, that we're getting rid of all this stuff that many of us knew and went through in COVID, especially me living in a leftist state that I did in my whole life almost. And the other state I left in actually was one too, but the area wasn't. Like the area isn't. Was the corruption, but she's not just saying the deeper things that I seen kind of hit me a few weeks ago when I really watched one of her videos, and she was talking about, and I'm going to share a video, a very short one. I'm going to do more with her because we need to be aware of what's coming. This is just this, and it will be clouded in common sense. It'll be a cake with common sense looking frosting, but it's not real frosting. It wasn't made with real eggs. It was made with AI eggs. Just keep that in mind. Just think about that thought. Very metaphysical what I said, right? So she has said brought out what's going on in the money system, who these people support, who are these people that companies like BlackRock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in Silicon Valley. What are they working on to do that really preparing us for? They took us all the way where I felt we in California is like the brinks of really everything on the left, the liberal was freaking communism, to got so far left that the center seems like the right. Right, because even back in democratic views of politics, some of this stuff was a little bit left of center. Now they got so far left that it was considered right of center, which it never was in the beginning, in the neutral zone when everything's balanced. So they're going to take it the other way. But and this is what hit me even about a video I seen not recently about depopulation, that I had seen how depopulation, we're looking and saying, how is this happening? And, with people not marrying, and we're looking at the results, but this was planned a long time ago and in action a long time ago through different agencies that were pushing this agenda for 30, 40 years, and we're catching on when it's already done. And this is similar to what I'm going to talk about today, is this, it's not the one in the forefront. It will be put forth as, I can help you because you have no hands and we're just going to drill in your head and put a Neuralink in it or whatever it may be. But she's going to tell you some things today that are going, in this just short 17-minute videos, are going to make you go, what the heck? Be prepared. Like I've said, I've been preparing that the blue bloods are the left and the right. It's a game. They're the same nickel or quarter, just heads or tails. You pick which one's heads or tails. It's the same metal. It's the same one. Their unity in that quarter. That's why on our money it says what? It says, in God we trust. It's money. Money. It was the money. That's the God. So let's go in and watch this video, right? We're gonna definitely go into this video, and we're going to share what she's saying. I will add some stuff. She's a very intelligent woman, but she breaks it down really palatable if you don't into not using so much big words, but tell you what they're doing in these agencies and some of the people. So this is very good stuff. Her name's Whitney Webb.
Dates to make sure everyone is, not secret thinking about committing crimes before they happen.
Today's video explores the convergence of big tech, biotech, and government influence, particularly regarding surveillance, longevity research, and brain-machine interfaces. The conversation begins with a mention of potential Neuralink mandates, and humorously suggests a future where brain implants could be used for crime prevention. It then transitions into an analysis of Jim O'Neill's affiliations with Peter Thiel and his involvement in the CEN Research Foundation, which focuses on longevity-related treatments. The speakers highlight the Silicon...
So when you hear Jim O'Neill and Peter Thiel, those aren't the common names. We hear everybody leading this as just Elon, but that's not the fact. Elon's the one we know of that's supported, now even working in our political. So this guy is in our political, but these guys are the ones, like we were wondering, how did this happen where all these countries are in total depopulation mode? I mean, spinning out of control, where you're looking 15, 20 years, Asian countries being half its size. This is countries that were huge. China, Japan, they're saying they're selling more diapers for elderly than babies. Nobody's marrying. And how did depopulation go? Because there was outside sources within the community pushing it that we didn't know. Peter Thiel, he's not the forefront unless you do the deep dive, which this woman has. I've known about her for a year. I was hearing stuff during the past administration, and she was breaking down how it was just that it's not really the plan, but that's not the real deal. It's all an eminence front, like the Who. It's an eminence front because it's a put on. But here's some real stuff.
Silicon Valley elite's obsession with life extension, citing figures like Brian Johnson and Thiel, who are invested in controversial practices such as injecting young blood to extend life. They argue that these efforts are...
Notice the young blood goes with, I said, the blue bloods. Dracula. Drac. Because even in the story, in the monsters pictures, I'm older, I'll say monster movies, that's what we used to call them. They call them horror now. and they're not like the old ones. Dracula did what? Suck blood to stay young. He was 400 years old, but looked like he was 31, 28. Why? Because he was drinking blood. Now they're talking about doing this through a tech way to inject it. Same
Are
premises.
part of a broader trend where big tech positions itself at the forefront of health-related innovations, often using biotech advancements like mRNA and DNA-based therapies.
I also think it's worth pointing out too that before we kind of wrap up the discussion on O'Neill here, a lot of his affiliation with Teal, it's very extensive. We noted in the piece.
This is her. This is Whitney Webb. I will in the future share videos where actually she's talking.
But also, for a lot of his O'Neill's, after he was out of government and also no longer working for a Teal affiliated VC, he was working for the SENS Research Foundation, which is devoted to treating longevity related or age related diseases. It's basically, I would argue, one of those sort of Silicon Valley health quote unquote foundations that aims to offer life extension technologies. And, a lot of big tech bros are kind of obsessed with this idea of immortality. Probably the most infamous of those is Brian Johnson. And he, along with Peter Thiel, have a significant interest in injecting young people's blood into themselves to stay young, for example. It's true. And the SENS Research Foundation is focused on, using biotech, including mRNA, DNA vaccines, and technology like that in order to allegedly extend people's lifespans, which is the SENS Research Foundation is also really exists thanks to the financing of Teal as well. So it's no surprise that you have a lot of people affiliated with Teal present there, like O'Neill, also Blake Masters, who's sort of like a JD Vance type of Teal creation, whose failed political career was also bankrolled by Teal. And he was on the SENS Research Foundation with O'Neill for some time, and they're focused on a lot of that kind of angle of biotech as well. And I think it's fair to sort of look. I mean, people need to pay attention to a lot of the Silicon Valley big tech and big pharma overlap. I've been covering it a lot since the COVID era, but basically there's been this.
This is when I got introduced to her during COVID. Sporadically 2022, a little bit more in 23, and then even a little bit more in 24. And she's been on my mind the last 2 months of I need to share some stuff because this is in the wheelhouse now. What's happening?
Effort, and you covered it in your piece about the WHO and permanent pandemic markets. This idea of the traditional income model for big pharma has basically run out of steam. It's been telegraphed openly by big pharma itself. They refer to it as the patent cliff issue. And so the way they want to get around patent cliffs, which is basically related to how products go generic and they don't make as much money when they're not exclusive products of that pharmaceutical company anymore. They've been going into biotech, and a lot of that is through joint ventures with big tech companies like Google, for example. And, a lot of those companies also now double as major and essential parts of the national security state and national security state contractors and integral parts of the national security, mass surveillance apparatus. And so the idea of having a lot of this, this idea of selling biosurveillance and all of this is a way to improve, market response to healthcare products and all of this stuff, I would argue is really kind of a sly way to manufacture what I think is pretty openly acknowledged as the final frontier of mass surveillance, which is surveilling people's bodies through wearables and eventually through things inside the body, nanomedicines. And of course, I would put brain-computer interfaces, BCIs like Neuralink in that category. And I think it's important to remember too, with brain-machine interfaces or BCIs, that it ultimately comes to the FDA to approve them. FDA tends to grant them breakthrough device status, which sort of waives some of the quote-unquote regulatory red tape for these things. But we have, Elon Musk having a very prominent role in the government right now. He doesn't have to divest from any of his companies at all in that role, and neither does another PayPal mafia figure who's also now a special government employee, David Sachs, the crypto AI czar. And as crypto AI czar, it's very possible he could partner with someone like O'Neill, who is also a very big advocate for AI in healthcare.
The conversation then shifts to the intersection of biotech and big pharma, emphasizing how traditional pharmaceutical models are becoming obsolete due to the patent cliff issue.
Due to the patent cliff issue, they're telling us is due to they're ineffective and they made us sicker. That plays into the humans who know this, right? We know that this Western medicine is like I said, doesn't heal a darn thing, not one. No healing involved in it. They're playing that, so we say, "Oh God, they're bringing us the truth. They love us." They're not. They're amping up for this next level, whether it's surveillance within you, vaccines within you with technology to watch you, or whatever their plans are with sticking stuff in your brain. To even now, they're going to read your thoughts through it. You know.
As drug patents expire and profits decline, major pharmaceutical companies are increasingly partnering with big tech firms like Google to explore AI-driven healthcare and surveillance. This shift is framed as a strategic move to create new, long-term revenue streams by leveraging biotechnology and digital health solutions. The speakers also point out that these developments are tied to national security interests, with government-backed initiatives supporting biosurveillance through wearables and implanted technology. The discussion suggests that these advancements could pave the way for mass surveillance under the guise of health monitoring, raising ethical concerns about privacy and bodily autonomy.
And see some of the stuff expanded as well. And I would definitely encourage people to pay attention to how this could potentially advance, because it has very Orwellian possibilities if they are collecting not just our data from our external activities and our external environment. There's this really crazy push to surveil everything and sort of mine all the data possible. You have companies tied to the current administration, for example, creating the Internet of Forests, trying to hook up every tree in the Amazon rainforest to mine biodata out of rainforest trees. It sounds bonkers, but there's ambitions to do that to people as well and create the so-called Internet of Bodies, which military contractors and think tanks like the RAND Corporation have been writing about for years. And it's really not. I mean, I think Purdue or some other university like that recently created a whole center dedicated to accelerating the development of the Internet of Bodies. Silicon Valley has been pushing the wearable agenda for some time, and I think we could potentially see the push for that come through, under the guise of health. Initially it was like, look how cool Google glasses are, and look at my VR Apple helmet. And now I guess Facebook has made these like Ray-Ban looking ones that they think will not look as insane on people. Getting a little too opinionated there. But anyway, this really is an ambition of that. And I think, when you have someone like Larry Ellison of Oracle, who was previously contracted to biosurveil COVID-19 vaccine recipients, coming out and saying we're going to have all these AI personalized cancer vaccines. They're going to be personalized. They're going to have to gather the testing data on you after you receive them. And they may not do the same method they did with COVID-19 with like blanket mandates, but it's very possible there will be some other type of coercive measure to try and get people to adopt this, because a big theme, whether it's healthcare or really anything else, like I mentioned earlier in reference to the SDGs, is about creating new markets that will make, this oligarch class very wealthy and entrench their power, and sort of lead to this neo-feudalism in society. And I think this is one of those, ways they could do that, because the only way they can get people to want these products is to create, use public policy as the enabling environment for these markets, essentially. So it's kind of crazy, honestly.
They're going to want the sheeple say, give it to me. I mean, that's what they're going to do. That's what she just said. The very sneaky, like I said, the language deceiving, evasive, and all that's there. When you see a demon or a daemon and a diamond, you should be able to discern it. The variations, and we can discern them. Some just don't know and are followers, but some, there's a plan that you may not know that you're following, that you're celebrating because you're following the plan. And this is what's happening. And this, what she's talking about is real stuff. All these, I talked, that's why I did the series about the foundation of what they are. When you're talking about blue bloods, everything, all roads lead to ones, the who ones, right? And then the Jesuits and all the secret societies. When people get full of power, it's not about the power. It's money. It's about the power they have over, and I'm telling you, why we had this transgender stuff. That was the Gerber baby. That was really telling you transhumanism. I see this. They're pushing alien agendas, right? This is going everywhere. Aliens, and somebody told me about aliens in the water. There's stuff we haven't discovered in the water, sure. And that have been around for a long, long, long time. The reality is, I see it as AI, artificial intelligence, is alien intelligence. And it's combining the human as a robot with technology. And I think they're around already. It's not like the robots, they're giving us the crumbs off the master's table, and you think that's the real and that's advanced. That's the lowest form of what they actually did. But you're not in their team. Quit supporting that which is really coming against you. And that's why I'm here for anybody that's new, that's opening up. This is real. This would fit the agenda of the book of Revelation. That's their script. They're running us off the script. That's why it's called scriptures. It's not prophecy, it's scriptures. Scriptures. Scripts. They're running on. And what she's telling you is what she knows in doing this. And she's been warning this during COVID. During this, she said this is really where she deep dived in all these agencies, all these tech gurus, Silicon Valley. And why is it called Silicon Valley? Notice the word silicone was used for breast like silicone boobies, right? Put in to enhance that. Because silicone, the substance of it, is the closest you would get into some of the connected to humans, and I'd have to look at the whatchamacallit table. What is it called? The element table, and I can't remember the word for it. It's connected to that. That's why silicone would be something that you would use, and that's they call it Silicon Valley, because it's a valley of artificial intelligence, not direct real, but the copy thereof. Artificial or alien intelligence is what it is. I'm telling you, it's. And you could use it to give you good stuff, but the ones in power, that as you see, there's a transmutation going on of you, your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren. Why are they attacking him with all this stuff? I was watching a 911, and I'm going to stop with this and let this woman speak because she's wonderful. She's a truth teller, and she is not in the spiritual community. She's just telling you what's going on in humanity with the techs. She's in that inner circle of not necessarily the inner circle of them, but she's one who does her studying and research of what this is, what's going on. And I will, what was I going to say? Oh, I watched 9/11 Texas with last night, the show. It's a 911 Texas. And I noticed when the people pulled up, I go, a group of people working in even the fire department, that one's a trans, these two are gay, this one's a this, and this one's a this, and I'm like, making things to the children appear normal when really these people that are part of the communities actually are less than 1-2% of everybody. 98% ain't them. You're not going to find it half your fucking works, excuse my language, not excuse it, work staff is not going to be that. Your co-workers, there may be a few, depending how big you work, it ain't half of them. Come on now. But that's what the wood does, and that's what the programming does. Let's carry on. I will not interrupt her unless it's really good and I need you.
Especially to see a lot of the mental gymnastics that have been used to sort of explain away the Stargate announcement or Lutnick's comment about the U.S. government now buying equity in COVID-19 mRNA vaccine companies.
Wow.
Or any of the other things we've discussed today. Even when our article came out on Jim O'Neill and his potential to undermine, a lot of these early Maha ambitions, pretty much crickets from a lot of the big influencers in that movement, which honestly, is kind of telling in itself as well.
For sure, for sure.
But also just a very little interest in addressing Palantir really at all. And Palantir, of course, is a company that has expanded under every administration. It's a bipartisan, it's the engine on which the quote unquote deep state runs. Yet no one in this administration or its supporters really wants to talk about Palantir really very much at all. And how many investors in Palantir, O'Neill included, but also, people like Joe Lonsdale was a major donor to Trump. David Sachs is also an investor in Palantir. He's the crypto AI czar. And of course, Peter Thiel co-founded Palantir. And Palantir has has numerous contracts with the U.S. military and other, every 18 intelligence, all 18 of the U.S. intelligence agencies, also very involved in Ukraine, which Kennedy was a big critic of, as well as the genocide in Gaza, which RFK, of course, is not a critic of. But nevertheless, Palantir has become kind of ubiquitous today. They also run a lot of the data for the British NHS, National Health Service, and they also run it for HHS, which I know you covered recently on your piece about the Palantir-run Center for Forecasting and Outbreak Analysis at the CDC. And I think that's worth covering a little bit here too, as we try and wrap up here, to talk about sort of how, a new paradigm, if there's a new quote unquote public health emergency, how lockdowns or any of these other measures that became infamous during COVID might be implemented, quote unquote, more gently as a way to make people think that, there's been an improvement over past, after post-COVID, when in reality, a lot of these same tactics that are sort of
come on now, bring it.
Very probable in a future pandemic scenario were really tested out during COVID.
Finally, Webb explores the potential societal implications of this technological shift, particularly the role of government agencies like the FDA in fast-tracking brain-machine interfaces, BCIs, and other biotech innovations. The speakers highlight how figures like Elon Musk, through Neuralink and other companies backed by government-connected investors, are pushing for FDA approvals with reduced regulatory oversight. They argue that these efforts align with a larger trend of creating the Internet of Bodies, where personal health data is constantly monitored and monetized. The conversation also touches on Palantir's expanding role in global surveillance, its bipartisan government support, and its integration into both national security and public health infrastructure. Ultimately, the speakers warn that these developments could lead to a new...
So did you know that some of the biggest market gains don't happen during the day, but actually overnight?
As soon as I can.
And what if you could actually target
new form of technological control, where private companies and government interests work together to shape the future of health, data, and personal freedom?
Well, they want to mine people constantly for biodata and have the AI constantly awash in data that our bodies generate, because data is the new oil. So you have to tap every possible source you can for data. And the best way to generate data is to continually extract it from something that's alive. So that's why I think, we're having a lot of this push into Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Forests, and all of these things. Because the parameters of a living thing are constantly in flux, right? Because it's alive, it's not inert. And so you can generate a lot of data and have, the more successful your AI will become is determined by how much data it's feeding on and also the quality of that data, right? So I think that's one of the incentives here. And again, I think people might sort of be ignoring brain-machine interfaces at their own risk, because there are a considerable amount of ties to that industry from this administration. So again, obviously Elon Musk is probably the most obvious because of Neuralink, which has had a lot of controversies over the amount of animals that died during their animal trials, for example. And if the FDA under Trump is very amenable to BCIs, we could see them potentially commercialized over the next 4 years. Because again, those are devices that have to undergo FDA approval in order to go on the market. But there's several companies that are farther along than Neuralink are. One of those is BlackRock Neurotech.
Neuralink's what we've been told about. A lot of us are familiar with it, but he just told us BlackRock is more advanced and has their own version. And if you don't know BlackRock, you will find out more and more of when I share here, but I would even go back and look it up. This company owns 98% of what's owned in the United States or the world now. It's a global company. It has its hands in every freaking cookie jar that does not support you or hurt or love you or care about you. This is fascism just blowing up times 1,000. And when you have the private working with the government, you're talking about full control, and nobody outside of even the private will challenge this. I appreciate this. I'm going to say she's a young lady.
Which recently received a very significant investment from the stablecoin issuer Tether, which has a lot of ties to Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce. And Tether, of course, is also very much connected to Rumble. Rumble, of course, also tied to Howard Lutnick, also tied to J.D. Vance, the vice president, and Peter Thiel, and their general counsel just became the number 2 guy at the CIA, Michael Ellis. And then they're also connected to, Tether also invested really heavily in this firm called Satellogic, which is a satellite surveillance company that's involved in, they're building the Internet of Forests, for example, for the purpose of turning each hectare of the Amazon into basically like a token that you can buy. It sounds totally insane, but it's true. Yes, they're contracting with Palantir right now, and Lutnick is on the board of that one. And Steve Mnuchin, who was Treasury Secretary during Trump's first term, is the chairman of the board.
Very much, I'm just kind of thinking about what you just said about the Amazon and the trees, and almost like anything that was the first program, which is nature, that you harmonize with as human beings, they're on, and which is a feminine aspect. They are onslaught attacking it with technology. Can I say that again? They're onslaught attacking everything that's connected to what's original and that's why that's AI. It's not original. They have us thinking it's so superior when it's a copy of something else, meaning it's artificial or alien intelligence. Like I say, it ain't real. It's half tail, let's be honest. But they have these spaces that they want to push their agendas on. So they're even attacking trees and nature in the Amazon, which I'm not surprised because they've dequalified nature. And then that's why I'm seeing these half humans, mankind. If you remember, I told you I'm going to think about this word when you look in the Bible and it talks about man and mankind. What is that? Ishi? Kind of man? Kind of ishish? Kindish man? But I'm going to let her finish up and think about these things.
It's interesting that you have people like Musk doing sort of this satellite, digital finance and brain chip play, and you have Tether basically replicating that play. And they both have significant ties to the government, and they would, a lot of the companies in that web need government approval in order to get their products on the market. I don't know. That seems like a disturbing setup for Internet of Bodies stuff going forward. And I think there's going to be a lot of different ways this stuff is sold to a reluctant audience, which would be Trump's base, I think, but probably not exclusively Trump's base. I think there's plenty of people on the left that are not really interested in this stuff either. But I've already sort of seen people sort of in the Trump supporting sphere say things like mRNA is fine as long as there's no mandates, and sort of kind of changing the realm of discussion a little bit.
Which is BS.
Already, or we can't hinder innovation.
Never will be.
And a lot of course, celebrity worship of people like Elon, I think, there's people like Tim Pool that have tweeted very supportively of Neuralink press releases being like, Neuralink, let's go. So, I mean, it's very possible we could see more of that. And then, I don't know. I don't know exactly how they're going to get people to use that stuff, but I think they won't have any problem getting it through FDA approval under this administration.
Thanks for watching. Help support this channel and receive exclusive offers from...
Very interesting. To the point of, I wanted to share this, and this is why it really went in heavy, not in the space within, on blue bloods, on all the things that I've led you with, even into the language, in the religion, to hear this is a plan that these folks, the powerful ones that run game on us all the time, thinking that the entertainment's good and it's real, and that the politics is good and it's real. It's phonies, and actors, all of them. And this is the world we live in this 3D reality of when you're doing the script for the book of Revelation, because that's what they're really pushing, that book of Revelations, into this manner of this would be the reality that they want to push. This is why we had transgenderism. Transgenderism was just a little simulac. It's about transhumanism. They want to make you a robot. Yeah, and your offspring. That's just facts. When they show you movies like They Live and all these other movies, that's what it's about. They're actually telling you their plans. They don't tell you on the NEWS. They tell you in movies, on the wood. So that's why I went into the language, went into the blue bloods, went into the family trees of these so-called leaders. And see, you even seen what she name dropped people in the administration now. And I'm not saying the whole administration was good. They're the same. It's always been a plan. They work together. They're all related. If you remember, they're all blue bloods. They're related. Maybe 16, 17 times cousin. 20 times even possibly. Whatever the number in the generations from that original king. Like the girl found out but didn't know the truth, and neither did her parents, but she shared great truth from the awakened ones. This is why we have to go in and be really alert to our antennas and tension within. Your power is not outside yourself. No. You're falling into the illusion, because this is Maya. If I went in and told you what usually happens out of this, is usually this happens. This technology is not new. There's way better technology in ancient times than now. They haven't got there yet. But it's like when you look at the book of Genesis and you think that's God creating the world. It's not. That's 60,000 years ago. That's another story from a former place, a cataclysm when everything wasn't, and then there was some more creation happening from the creation before, not the original stuff. We've been tampered with many, many times, because this is what happens. Technology goes right, it goes, and cataclysms go boom, back start from the beginning in the sim. Game over, got to restart it, reboot. But it's also, you're a living soul. This is a time to transform yourself. Like I said, I believe this is going from 3D to 5D, when 5D is going to be a wholeness, unity, consciousness, connection. But do the work, because you're given a lot of grace to do the work. But giving attention to things that are outside of yourself, an illusionary thing, or expecting them outside to do the work, doesn't happen. No. The foundation is within. Your foundation, folks, is within you. If you're still playing an outside game and halfway crooking this, use a street term, being a halfway crook on your inner work, you need to realize anything outside of you starts to go into the illusion of Maya. You put energy out. There's anybody who's connected that's going to next levels of their consciousness can tell you there's certain things happening and experiences are happening that is continuous, that they're seeing and experiencing things in even the 5D realm, even through a day, through 2 or 3 days, and they may cool down some, but then it goes back up, because you're getting prepared for that, and just the work and the processing is going through it. So I really like this young lady, because she doesn't play either side. She's telling you what they're doing on the tech side and who's connected to what, and then they're put into to our government. I'm just telling you, it's there. Always has been, but this is the day that everything's speeding up. Your consciousness and your awakening is speeding up. I'm talking to people within short periods of time, young folks, 30 to 40. But took me, who started this journey in 33, but I know it's even farther back than that, many lifetimes ago. Yeah, let's talk the talk of when we go deeper. And if you go deeper, you go higher. Why? Because roots of high trees is very deep too. Bounded. You're going to have experiences and stuff like that is going to that. But then the other side is, and I'm talking about those who can be taken to another side, meaning you still got maybe you can be influenced outside your stuff still. That's what I'm really saying. Because we even got to watch psyops within the community. That's why stay true to yourself. Stay true. I'm gonna tell you, they're gonna psyop with some god in the sky or the aliens. I'm telling you, a lot of the stuff that Vivana was talked about in the space saucer was talked about in Hinduism. The Germans made one. When we see this stuff happening, it's coming from the military. If there's some kind of thing going on where they're seeing saucers coming out of the water, military. Don't fall for okie dokes. It's okie doke. It's okie dokes. When you start looking at how this rolled in the situation from even this space I'm talking about now, it was after the World War II got into the science fiction age, then they went in all science fiction in the 50s and 60s with these movies, was not before. Why? Because they're master planners, and they really are. But you can be masters of self and masters seers that see. And there's an alignment that can align to make changes that need to make changes for us. And it's them that are wanting to be in the wholeness, wanting to have the unity consciousness and not all this division. And people pretending to be something they're not. And why is their mindset? And notice this was all from academia. Really, what was academia? And I've shared videos. Go to the 1907 school board meeting. Get your foundation. Go find out what happened in Prussia. Get your foundation. Even goes into the Brothers Grimm. That's their foundation. You guys have a great day. Not trying to scare you, just trying to nudge you to within. I was asked a question by a young lady that I'm connected to and saying, a lot of us are waking up, we don't know what to do. And I had mentioned to her that you're going through a process right now where you're seeing everything outside of you in the world you really live in. One more time, in the world you really live in. And you're like, whoa, but that which you're saying you don't have is available to you. It is. But you have to go from the outside to the inside. Outside in. That's where your only power in everything of reality is in. And even all you guys with high eggs, you're like, man, the eggs got higher. Do you remember back, was it summertime or spring of last year, when they were blowing up all the chicken farms and they were exploding? Yeah. Do you remember that? Think about it. That was 9, 10 months ago, 8 months ago, back in the summer or springtime. All of a sudden, these exploding chicken farms in these different states were blowing up. How were they blow up? Just on their own? Or the farts blew them up from the chickens? Come on. That's what we're dealing with in this reality. But your only power, or your power, not only, that is all you need to boost yourself into your reality is within. You guys have a great day.